Welcome everyone to the employer education session. Today we'll provide an overview of in-year reporting, including retirement, termination, pre-retirement death, long-term disability, and change of employment information. This session is part of our employer education program, which is a key component to managing risk to the plan and is tied to the employer attestation of compliance initiative. Presenting with me today is Christine Wachira and Joyce Sang, who are pension analysts with the Employer Services team. Bill Hurley, team lead for Employer Services, Maria Alero, senior pension analyst, Joseph Barone and Shervan Bhatt, pension analysts from Member Services, are also joining us today to assist with any questions you may have. Here is our agenda for today. I will now pass it over to Christine.
Thank you, Sandy. Let's first look at retirements. Before initiating the retirement process, it's important to note when members become retirement eligible. For DBplus members, retirement eligibility is based on age only. If a member is age 50 or over, they're eligible to retire and can collect their pension. If they don't meet this criteria and they leave employment, it's considered a termination. This slide shows us the retirement process. To initiate the retirement process, complete the pension application via PAL, or report the change in status on the monthly payroll-based reporting file. We calculate the member's pension and send the retirement package to the member within 30 days of receiving the pension application. The member returns the completed option document with the supporting documentation to the CAAT plan. If they have opted for an immediate pension, we will set up the member's monthly pension on the next available payment date. If members are interested in a pension purchase or transfer calculation, this must be completed well before the retirement process is initiated. This will help to ensure the pension is paid on time. It is important for the pension applications to be sent to us in a timely manner. It is recommended that you submit the pension application 3 months prior to the date of retirement. The reason for this is that it gives us enough time to review the application and process the calculation. It also gives the member sufficient time to review the package and make their decision. To ensure the new retirees receive their first pension payment on time, they must submit the completed retirement option documents and the supporting documentation prior to the processing deadline. You can refer to the payment schedule in the employer manual for deadlines and pension payment dates. A link is provided in the slide. If you have already submitted a pension application and realize there are changes to be made, you must complete a revised pension application and submit it to CAAT before we can adjust any member's benefit. However, pension revisions have a threshold of $140 in total member and employer contributions. If the revisions are within this range, you do not need to send a revised pension application. We want to provide some clarification on the last day worked and retirement dates that are required on the pension application. In most cases, the last day worked is the same as the last day for which the member works for the employer. There may be some special situations. For example, a member may be provided with a pensionable severance payment, and in these cases, the last day worked is the same as the last day which the member was paid for their work and made contributions to the plan. The retirement date is the last day of the month which the member made contributions to the plan. To start a retirement in PAL, select the pension application link on the left-hand sidebar and search for the member. After selecting the member, you will be taken to the pension application page. Provide all the required information. Once complete, you can either save the transaction or proceed with submitting the application to the plan. After you have successfully saved the pension application, you will be automatically redirected to the dashboard of the portal. You will be able to see the pension application in your recent activity section and in the transaction and process section. You can also review the pension application you saved from the transaction and process section. Saved transactions that have not been submitted to CAAT will expire within approximately 45 days after it was last saved. A system-generated email notification will be sent 30 days after the transaction was last saved. If the transaction is not resaved or submitted to the plan, a final reminder will be sent 15 days later. If not actioned, the transaction will be purged from PAL. After you've submitted the transaction, the pension application will appear on your dashboard under the Transactions Sent to CAAT section and in your Recent Activity section. If you need to revise a previously submitted pension application, open the original application submitted to CAAT. Under the Revise Information section, check the box for Are you reporting a data change? This will unlock all the data fields. Proceed with updating the applicable information, and once complete, run validations and resubmit to CAAT. Please note that pension applications can be revised up to May 31st of the year after retirement. For instance, if a member retires on April 30th, the pension application can be revised up to May 31st of the following year. Let's now review the termination process. What defines a termination from the pension plan? A member is terminated when they end their employment with all their CAAT employers and are not eligible for retirement. For DBplus, eligibility is based on the age of a member. If they have not attained age 50, they are eligible for termination benefits from the plan. The first stage of termination is extension of membership. Following the termination of employment, a member who is not eligible to retire at the date of termination will enter the 24-month extension of membership period called EOM. When a member terminates employment with their employer, they are not terminated from the CAAT plan. A member who works at more than one employer must terminate employment at all employers before being eligible for a benefit. In this case, the 24-month extension period will begin when they terminate from their last place of work. Annual pension statements are sent to members during their EOM period. Similar to active members, they are due by June 30th. During the 24-month extension of membership period, members have a few options. If a member starts employment with another CAAT employer, the member will continue to accrue a benefit under the plan. Contributions to CAAT must begin at the enrollment date. A member can also transfer the value of their CAAT pension benefit to a new employer's pension plan, provided the new employer is a non-participating employer with a registered Canadian pension plan that agrees to accept the funds. This is commonly referred to as a transfer under the Pensions Benefits Act, or PBA transfer. The CAAT plan requires a written request from the member in order to initiate this type of transfer. Lastly, a member can start their monthly CAAT pension benefit if they become retirement eligible within the 24-month extension period. Between the time they first become retirement eligible and the end of the 24-month EOM period, the member can choose to start their monthly pension by contacting us. If the member does not contact us, we will send them a retirement package at the end of their EOM period. The pension amount in this retirement package will be calculated based on the plan's provisions for retirement from active status. At the end of the 24-month extension of membership period, a termination package will be mailed to the member. Essentially, they will have three options: defer their pension to start at age 65 or sooner with a reduction, or transfer the commuted value to their own personal locked-in retirement savings vehicle, or transfer to another employer's pension plan if they accept these transfers. If a member elects a deferred pension at the end of the EOM period and subsequently returns to work either part-time or full-time, they must re-enroll immediately. It is up to the member to notify you if they were previously enrolled with a CAAT employer. Once a member has been paid a commuted value payment, no further benefit is payable from the CAAT plan. This slide illustrates the termination process steps. To start the termination process, the employer will complete a termination of employment process through PAL. If you are trying to complete a termination process for someone who is retirement eligible, you will receive a pop-up notification prompting you to complete a pension application. CAAT reviews the termination application before sending the commencement of EOM letter to the member, explaining their options during the 24-month extension period. At the end of the 24-month extension period, we send the termination option document to the member. The member is responsible to return the completed form along with the required documentation for us to set up payment on the next available payment date. If members do not respond to their option package within 6 months, they will be deemed deferred and will no longer be eligible to transfer their commuted value to a locked-in vehicle. All deferred members will receive deferred annual statements by June 30th. We want to provide some clarification on last day worked and termination dates that are required in the termination application. The last day worked should be the last day which the member worked and made contributions to the plan. The termination date should be the last day of employment with the employer. In some cases, the member may have a termination date that is later than the day they last contributed. This may occur when a contract ends, but the employment relationship is still active until there is formal separation of employment after the last contract. To submit the termination in PAL, select the Termination of Employment link on the left-hand sidebar and complete the required information, then submit to the plan. Similar to pension application processes, termination transactions can be saved, submitted, and revised in PAL. Alternatively, you can report the change in status on the payroll-based reporting file by filling in the appropriate columns. On the DR Input tab, enter the termination status and select the effective date. Under column E-status, enter the employment status code of TER. Under the E-status_date, enter the last day worked. On the PR Input tab, report the earnings and contributions from the start of the month up to and including the last day worked.
Now let's review the pre-retirement death process. For pre-retirement death, employers are responsible for reporting the death of an active member and members who may be on a leave or on disability. Pre-retirement death benefit would also apply to members who have terminated and are on an extension of membership from the plan or are members with a deferred pension with the plan. Survivor benefits are paid according to a specific order of eligibility. The eligible spouse is always the primary recipient of the survivor pension benefit. For members employed in Ontario and Nova Scotia that have no eligible spouse and have eligible children, the children will receive a children's pension. If the member has neither an eligible spouse nor eligible children when they die, their designated beneficiaries or estate will receive the pre-retirement death benefit in a lump sum payment. For members employed in other jurisdictions outside of Ontario and Nova Scotia that do not have an eligible spouse, their designated beneficiaries or estate will receive the pre-retirement death benefit in a lump sum payment. To report a pre-retirement death, complete a death benefit application and submit it to CAAT. If there is an eligible spouse, the spouse will provide proof of age for the member and themselves. They will also have to provide proof of death and proof of marriage or declaration of common law status. They can provide these documents directly to CAAT or to the employer when they sign the application form. We will calculate the survivor benefits and mail the pre-retirement death option package to the member's eligible survivor. The eligible survivor will forward the completed signed option document and the supporting documentation to CAAT. We will process the payments once we have received all the completed forms. The death benefit will not be processed until proof of death and member proof of age have been received. A pension adjustment is not required in the member's year of death. The death benefit application can be found in the employer manual under the Forms section. Now let's review the process for reporting members who are placed on disability. If a member becomes disabled and begins a disability leave, they are eligible to continue to earn a pension benefit under the disability provisions of the CAAT Pension Plan if they are determined to be disabled and in receipt of either long-term disability benefits through an employer-sponsored insurance provider or benefits under the Workers' Compensation Plan. If a member wishes to contribute during the leave, they will contribute based on the disability earnings they receive from your insurance provider or through a workers' compensation plan. The member must elect to contribute, and appropriate disability notice and election forms would be required. All contributions made by the member will also receive matching employer contributions. If a member elects to not contribute, they will not receive any matching employer contributions during the disability period. If the member returns, this period will not be eligible for purchase. Members receiving disability benefits under the Ontario's Workplace Safety and Insurance Act will stop contributing to DBplus to the first 12 months and will continue to earn a pension during this period. After this 12 months period, the member will be given the option to contribute to the plan based on actual earnings received from WSIB. We will notify the employer when the contribution waiver period is coming to an end. You should provide the member with an election form at this time. For members that go on disability leaves during the year, you will need to report this event to the CAAT plan using the appropriate start notice and election forms. You will also need to work with the member to ensure they have the information needed to make a decision about continuing to contribute to the plan. Download the applicable forms from the employer manual and complete the appropriate sections. The member must make their election on this form, electing whether to contribute or not while on disability. If the member elects to contribute, you will collect the member's contributions and submit them and the employer's contributions to CAAT. When the member returns to work, download the applicable stop notice and election form to complete and submit to CAAT. You can locate the disability forms in the employer manual in the Forms section under the Disability Forms drop-down as shown on this slide. Now let's review the change of employment information process. If you have any changes for member data you would like to report, These changes can be done on the DR Input tab by entering the new information that you would like updated. Data such as date of hire, date of enrollment, and job code can all be updated using PBR. No additional form would be required to be submitted if you report changes through PBR. Alternatively, you can complete a change of employment form found in the employer manual. Follow the process steps to upload your PBR load file, validate, review, edit, and post the data through PAL. Changes will be updated in our administration system and immediately accessible to your members in My Pension. The change of employment form can be found in the employer manual in the Forms section under the Change of Information Forms drop-down as shown on this slide.
Okay, this concludes our presentation for today. Our next session is scheduled for June 2nd and will be on enrollment eligibility for plan members. Invitations will be sent out 2 weeks prior to the session. We ask that you provide your employer PA with a list of everyone who attended today's session so that we may track this information on your behalf. This information will be provided back to you quarterly and again at the end of the year as part of the attestation process. When you leave today's meeting, you'll have an opportunity to complete a brief survey. We would appreciate you taking the time to complete the survey, as this will help us in making these sessions more valuable to you. Thanks again for attending and have a great day.